So, schön, dass Sie noch alle da sind. Wir starten jetzt gerade mit einem ganz spannenden Keynote-Speech. Fuerza Aérea Uruguaya, Flug 571, war ein Flug der Luftwaffe Uruguays von Montevideo nach Santiago de Chile. Die Maschine vom Typ Fairchild Hiller FH227 zerschellte wegen Unwetter und eines Navigationsfehlers in den Anden auf 4000 Meter Höhe am 13. Oktober 1972. Nach 72 Tagen im Eis konnten 16 der 45 Insassen gerettet werden. Und einer davon ist heute hier. Es ist mir eine ganz große Ehre, Herr Eduardo Strauch Urioste begrüßen zu dürfen, der Mitgründer des Old Christian Rugby Teams. Einen herzlichen Applaus.
Hallo.
Encantada.
Hallo.
Herr Eduardo Strauch Urioste wird auf Englisch sprechen. Mein kleines Interview mit ihm wird auch auf Englisch stattfinden. Jetzt meine Frage an Sie. Wer versteht kein Englisch?
What are you saying?
Who is not understanding English? We have one person. Gibt es eine Möglichkeit, dass jemand sich neben den Herrn ansitzt und vielleicht ein bisschen übersetzt? Ist jemand bereit dafür? Okay, wir haben jemanden gefunden. Vielen, vielen Dank. Vielleicht gibt es auch noch ein schönes Geschenk dafür. Danke vielmals.
Yeah, I'm sad I don't speak German because I love German, but I don't know a word.
English is fine.
Oh, maybe 2 or 3 words.
Or Spanish.
Boom,
but
and
English is
a
good.
few more. Well, I will try to do it in English. First of all, I want to thank KMU for the invitation. I'm really glad to be in Switzerland. Part of my blood is Swiss, so I feel really very comfortable in this country. I would like very much to move here, but I guess it's impossible. I have many children and now granddaughters, so I must stay in Uruguay. I always, when I concentrate in my story, I think that to be here alive 46 years after that crash, that experience, is impossible. It's absolutely impossible to have survived that experience. I was 25 years old. We organized a trip to play rugby in Chile. The second time we were going there to play with an English school in Santiago, play rugby. We organized that trip with my best friend. We were really very close friends since we was 7 years old. So he asked me, he was the captain of the team, the rugby team. He asked me help for organize the second trip to Santiago. It will be very cheap because we rent a military plane of the Uruguayan Air Force. 45 people, 40 passengers, 5 of the crew. It was a middle springtime. I would like to watch some matches, some rugby matches, but my goal was to go to ski in the Portillo. It's a beautiful winter resort just not far from Santiago. I always love mountains and snow. And you know what? Because my father have an important jewelry in Uruguay, and they were the one who imported to Uruguay the Rolex. The Rolex and some other brands of Swiss watches like Scherrer Ultra and Mobile. And every year it came home, we received a beautiful calendar with all beautiful pictures of your mountains and the snow. So since I was very, very young, I love the mountains, the snow, and that country has so beautiful mountains. At that moment in 72, we lived a very easy life. We were on a big bubble without problems, good families who gave us love, very, very good school of the Christian Brothers of Ireland, where we played rugby. We all live in the Carrasco neighborhood. It's a nice neighborhood with many greens and parks and trees. just beside the sea too. We have a nice beaches over there. So we're living really into a bubble. And we go into that plane into that plane of the military Uruguayan force on the 12th, October the 12th, 1972. We never imagined that some hours later we will be in that terrible situation. The bubble broke in 1 minute and our lives changed forever. I remember perfectly well the moment of the crash. We were crossing the Andes. I was just watching the snow. There was a lot of snow that springtime. We had a very cold and snowy winter. And from one moment to the other, we changed absolutely our lives. The plane crashed in the most highest part of the Andes. We never knew clear why it happened, what happened with the pilots, because we have not so bad weather, and you need at least 12 minutes to cross the Andes, depending on the winds, and they start descending at 6 or 7 minutes after turning right to start the crossing. So it's unimaginable why they did that. I was sitting on the right window, watching those peaks, and those peaks start coming closer and closer. I begin to be afraid, of course, and the sounds of the engines start changing from grave sounds to very thin sounds. I will never forget that sound. And it's incredible because the Andes have a lot of peaks, brutal peaks, and because of that snowy winter, maybe the pilot could get into two of those peaks and touch the snow. One of the wings touched those peaks, and the plane broke into parts. I stay in the front part. I remember exactly that moment, the noise, the smell of the cold air and the kerosene coming into the cabin, the fuselage. And I was just, in that moment, I was like in the fetal position like this, waiting the end. I was absolutely sure that it was the end of my life. Many thoughts crossed my mind, and after the crash and the broken of the fuselage, the planes continue moving. It was something very strange because the end, it doesn't come. And I was waiting something else. I thought I was dead, but I was not dead. And at last, it stopped the movement, and the fuselage stayed over a glacier, and at near 4,000 meters high in the Andes, with maybe 30 degrees below zero at that time of the year on the nights. We were just like this with a jacket and a shirt in the middle of the Andes, just at the end of the winter. At that moment, our incredible machine, our minds and our body, start adapting to the situation. It was real amazing. One of so many things I learned over there is the capabilities that we have in our minds and in our bodies. And it started the most terrible night of our lives. We thought in those moments. And of course, we think that the rescue will come in the next hours or at least the next day. At the beginning, 16 of the people were dead. One of my cousins, we were 4 cousins, and Daniel Strauch Urioste, She died in the accident. We start calling each other by our names, Daniel, Fito, Daniel, just waiting the answer. And when we called Daniel, he didn't answer, and it was really very sad. But our minds immediately start working in a way that we couldn't spend energy, we couldn't spend fluids of our body because we have no water to drink. We can't be sad or even cry because we can't lose liquids from our bodies. I remember just with the first impact of Daniel's death, that I feel just like an impact, a very strong impact, and immediately my mind continued working just to survive and to organize that chaos. In that chaos, we were all waiting for the leader, someone who started taking the decisions and organizing the chaos. Marcelo, my friend, he was the captain of the team. It's my age, 25, we were the older ones, and immediately became the leader. Organizing the bodies, the dead bodies, we take it out of the fuselage, trying to get some warm clothes. We have no warm clothes around. We start using our imagination, our creativity, and we use all the covers of the seats as blankets. That's that first night. And waiting the next morning for the rescue. If we knew that night that will be the first of 72 nights, I think we wouldn't be able to continue struggling 2.5 months to get out. We have a goal that was absolutely the reason because I'm here now. It was the goal to reach our homes, our houses, our beloved ones. And during this process of the first days, the only thing that was important for us, for everybody, the same goal. For that reason, it works very good, the team we organized. The goal was reaching home and hug our parents and girlfriends and our brothers and sisters. If we didn't have that goal, I think we won't resist that terrible struggling. We were in the middle of the Andes, as I told you. We didn't know the geographic location. We don't have water, just snow with kerosene at the beginning. We must melt it to get water. We have no food, just a few chocolates and some wine bottles and a few biscuits. We have no warm clothes. And even though we could do it, because human beings, we are so unimaginable good machines and powerful machines that if you don't reach that kind of circumstances, just living surrounded with death, you never would realize the power we have. And this is one of the reasons because I need to give these talks, try to transmit to people that we are much more than we think we are. And we really are. I really prove it. I continue to use those lessons in my life, even now. And I must take the most difficult decisions in my life down there in the Andes. I must decide if I would live or I would die. I was 25, and the only way to to live after the few biscuits and chocolates were gone were to get the proteins from the bodies. It was a very tough, difficult decision, you can imagine. And I was, as I told you, one of the 4 or 5 older boys. The other ones, they were teenagers, around 19 years old. And in that point, maybe a week after the crash, yes, we were becoming very weak. We couldn't walk. We were lack of oxygen, of course, too. So we start thinking and looking for proteins around us. We tried to eat the leather of luggages, the leather of shoes. They were not a plant, not a lichen. There was nothing more than stones and snow. And, well, you know about mountains. We didn't know about mountains. We don't have mountains in Uruguay. We don't have snow. So we must start learning very fast about the mountains, about the snow, about the ice. We didn't know about the crevasses. We were up over a glacier, and they were full of very dangerous crevasses. We didn't know about that. And we were lucky because we didn't have problems with the crevasses. But yes, we have with the avalanche. We don't know about the avalanche. It was a lot of snowy days. We hear a lot of noises all the nights, and we were very stressed. We couldn't sleep more than 1 hour or an hour and a half, and then we awake and we start thinking about our families at the beginning, and then trying to get the solutions to the situation. But when the plane slid by the snow, there was just a track over the snow, absolutely very dangerous for someone who knows about avalanches and snow and mountains. We didn't care about that. We didn't realize that we were really in a very dangerous situation. And the night of the 29th of October 29th, yes, an avalanche, big avalanche, came into the fuselage. They covered all the fuselage. Eight more of our friends died that night. And Marcelo, my friend, he was just on my left, trying to sleep. He died beside me. And as I was telling you before, after trying all the leathers and luggage and shoes, showing for proteins, well, we decided that the only protein was on the bodies. And well, we must decide. I want to live that way. If I want to live, I must start eating the bodies of my friends. Otherwise, I will die in the mountain in a few days. It was very, very difficult for many of us. Some of our friends, they have philosophical problems and religious problems to let them accept the idea. I never had that kind of problem. I take the idea, I decided to do it. I really felt very proud of myself for having overcome that taboo of thousands of years. So even that so difficult situation, so difficult decision, I feel proud and serene after taking the decision. And we convinced, I must convince Marcelo, one of the boys, that he couldn't do it, and he felt guilty of having organized that trip, and he was very, very sad and very coming down. But when we start talking all together, the second night after begin talking about the food, we offer each other, and that was a really the argue that convinced everybody. It was one of the more emotional moments of that Odyssey, because we offer each other. I said to Marcelo, I don't know if I will be your foot or you will be mine. That's how nice it is to give you life if I die before you, or the contrary, you will give it to me. And at last, all got convinced that we must do it. It was very difficult at the beginning, not mentally, psychologically, but physically. For me, it was very difficult. My physique feel repulsion at the beginning. Well, it was a process, but a much more faster process that you can imagine, because we get used quite soon to live in that way. But as well, in this experience, we really suffer a lot. It was very, very, very tough. Psychologically, physically, emotionally. We were, as I told you, just convinced that we will reach our homes again. I remember Nando Barrados, one of the two boys who crossed the Andes, walking 10 days with rugby shoes and jeans. They must climb to 5,000 meters high and then start going down the Chile side. And at the beginning, he was unconscious. And when he got the conscience again, I was just near him. And he said, we told him what was going on. His mother died in the accident. His sister was dying, unconscious, just beside him. He must melt the snow in his mouth and put the melting snow in the mouth of his sister. It was really moving. And he said, I will get to my father and I will explain what happened. And he was so convinced, and his mind was absolutely working in that way, that it helped me a lot, because I knew that Nando will get out and will ask for rescue. And to tell his father, I start talking and I connect so many anecdotes and facts, because the father of Nando was very, very important for our salvation, because Nando was decided to get to his father. And when his father died, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, he asked before, of course, dying, to Nando to take his ashes to the mountain, because there was his wife and his daughter, another daughter. No? There were two sisters, two Nando sisters. But Nando, he went many times to the Cordillera, and he didn't want to go again. So Cele Parrados, Nando's father's ashes, were just in his house, waiting, I don't know what. And I met his other sister, Graciela, and I'm going every year to the Cordillera. Many people don't understand why, but well, my reason is very clear. And she asked me help to take Nando's father ashes to the Cordillera, up there to the cross. And I did it. And it was really, I never could imagine at that time, under 72, that man that I didn't know it at the moment, Cele Parrado, Nando's father, that I will go with his ashes on my backpack up to the mountain and leave all the ashes over there. I went there with one of the main reasons to go to the Cordillera. I started going. I went 15 times after the crash. I went with my children, with my wife, because it's the only way that people could understand a little bit more what happened, how we could do it, how we could get out, and how brutal is the Cordillera de los Andes. So I went up there. I remember with my youngest, Pedro. He was just standing in a beautiful day, sunny day like today, just beside the cross of the grave. And he looked around in silence. And he said, Dad, now I understand many things. And it's the only way to understand more things is just to be there. And Laura, some minutes after, she said, your ashes must come here. I always never care about my body after my dying, so I didn't care. You can do whatever you want. I always tell my wife. But the idea of taking my ashes up there, I really like it, and I will be there, yes, resting in the Cordillera. But at last, or as well, I live many of the most important moments of my life. That decision of live or not live, the decision of feed ourselves with the flesh of our friends. I get some moments of undescribable peace, and I felt a connection with the universe, with the mountain, states of meditation that I never could do again. When we were rescued, I just feel the most deep and the long state of happiness that I never felt before and after. I didn't feel after. And 46 years after, I think that all what I continue taking from the Cordillera is absolutely positive. That's so many lessons that I practice it, so many lessons that I try to transmit at the beginning to my friends, to my family, to my children, and now around the world, because I feel that I must transmit that, people to be aware that the power we have, the capability we have, that you can, of course, apply it in your family, in your normal life, or in your work in the company, or whatever. But we must know, we must have very clear that the power we have in our minds. It's really amazing, and it's really a pity that we must reach a situation like that to realize what we are. And that experience I changed too, and I learned about life and about death. We live 72 days with just the death around us. We get very familiar with it. I'm not afraid of dying, absolutely, now. And we realize the importance of life, not to spend or to waste a minute of our life, if it is possible. When you are just waiting death in any minute, you really appreciate it much more. And I still feel that today. You know? And in the avalanche, I was covered absolutely by the snow. And I have no oxygen. I start the process to the death. And I have probably a process that it was in the 3 or 4 minutes before I get oxygen again. And at the beginning, I was absolutely afraid, terrible scare of going somewhere, I don't know where. And then I feel a deep nostalgia of living this life. I apologize to my parents that I was living. I struggled all what I could, but the moment was have arrived after the avalanche. And at last, I start feeling an immense and profound feeling of pleasure and something impossible to describe, going to something that I would like to continue. And I was absolutely convinced that I was dead. I felt I crossed the line between life and death. And when I was just waiting the last moment to see what was going to happen, my cousin was just on my right, began to move, and the oxygen come again. I was desperate to stop that process, but immediately I realized I was alive again and continued struggling until the end, until the 22nd December, my second birth.
Thank you so much.
Okay, with the time?
Let's sit down quickly, so you don't need to stand. We have also for the audience, if somebody would like to ask questions, I mean, we can discuss until midnight. It's such an interesting story, of course. But
and I start talking, I continue.
Yes, but of course, you're going to stay with us later?
Yes.
For a drink?
Yeah, of course,
okay,
yes.
Wonderful. So you have the opportunity and
Yes.
chance to talk to Eduardo. So my question, I think this is the most asked question. How does human meat taste?
At the beginning, it doesn't taste. It was just a very small pieces that were frozen. And maybe I can say you that, yeah, it tastes like a pork meat frozen, yes. No, we never feel the taste of maybe similar to beef.
Similar to beef.
But we are so special, the humans, that nearly all of us we get used immediately to eat human flesh.
And we are talking today is the topic Generation Y. I guess you've never heard of this.
No, I'm from the generation, I don't know
So we like to have these generations that were born before 1980, so before the crash.
Like my
Generation X. Exactly. Then we have the Generation
Those are the Y.
Exactly. Born 1980 till 2000, and then Generation Z, which is now the teenagers. So basically, the people that were in the crash were the Generation Y, but the people were born, it's like you were born about during the Second World War.
Yeah, just a little bit, 2 years later,
so
the end of the war.
Would you say that, I mean, you know the young generation today too, would you say that the generation at that time was maybe stronger in their head? Or because we were discussing today, Generation Y is maybe not as loyal, they're a little bit more spoiled, they have big expectations, and the older generation has much more, like, I don't know, maybe power.
Yes, I could say that, yes. We were stronger.
Why?
I think for many things, The generation, this one, the X or the Y, I don't remember which is the.
Let's say the young generation.
The young generation, that's better, yeah. I'm generation A or B, maybe, no?
You're the generation before the baby boomer.
Okay. But I think it's in many ways it's much easier the life now, no? And they don't know how to wait anything. They're always changing. And the iPhones and the information and everything is just on their hands. They're not used to make efforts.
So they are not patient.
Not patient, that's a word, yes, absolutely. That's very clear.
They couldn't wait 72 days.
No, I think they wouldn't do it.
Well, a big advantage today would be, though, if there is a crash, we have the phones. So we could, through the GPS, we would be saved faster.
Yes. This story would happen nowadays, because of the technology.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Nando. Was he, because we were also talking about leading, and if the Generation Y, can accept authority. Would you say Nando was the leader at that time? How did you?
No.
Did you know each other before?
Nando was a fundamental piece, as I told you, when he take the conscience. He said, "I will reach my father. I will get home," and he was absolutely convinced, and he did it. It's unhuman what they did. crossing the Andes without food, without clothes, etc. But Nando, he was quiet, just always positive. He was very strong physically. He went twice or 3 times to just at the beginning looking for the tail, because there we have warm clothes and maybe some food. So he been very, very important for sure, but not a little. Many people are confused in the story if they have seen the movie Alive. It's American Hollywood movie, and they always need a Superman and then the rest. And well, Nando is the Superman in that movie, and we are the rest. But we were a very good team, working very good.
Yeah.
And
so how did you define this? Like, was it very clear? Nando said, "Okay, I'm going, on the road and find somebody to help," or was it like, "Now you go"? How did you decide? How was the team created?
Nando, he was very, very excited, and he wanted to leave 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, until it was impossible to walk on the snow. You got until a meter deep, and it was very cold in the night. It was impossible for him to do it at that time. So we say, no, Nando, it's impossible. You must wait. We must wait the better weather, better climate. And well, he accepted, and we must wait a couple of months more, near 2 more months, when the climate was nice and the snow melted and the nights were not so cold.
Mm-hmm. But he was not the only one. There were
2, yeah. They start 3. Because we always imagine that after that cliff that we see just in the end of the valley, they were the green valleys of Chile. They were on our heads. After the mountain, the other side of the mountain is the green valleys of Chile. So we left 3 with Vicentín, Canessa, and Parrado. And we thought that in one day they will cross the Andes, and a couple of days they were coming for rescue. But the first day they must sleep in the mountain. The second day a little bit higher in the mountain, we're looking at them, and we start losing our hope. And the third day, they could look to the other side, and the only thing that they've seen is mountains and rocks and mountains and rocks and mountains and rocks, not green valleys of Chile. So they decided to send Vicentín down so they would have more food and more clothes and all that. No? And they spent 10 days crossing the Andes in that situation.
And Nando finally made it.
Yeah, with Canessa. Mm-hmm. The clear leader at the beginning was Marcelo, my friend, because he was the captain of the team. Mm-hmm. Everybody respect him. He was my age, the older ones. Mm-hmm. But after we listen in the small radio that we connect with stabilization every day, that the rescue was over, the searching was over after the 10th day. 10th day, Marcelo lost hope and start going down, and that leadership became empty, that place of the leadership.
Mm-hmm. So how do you see your function? What was your function in the surviving team?
After Marcelo left the leadership, we, the 3 cousins, we were the same age, Fito, Daniel. Fito Strauch, we were double cousins, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers. And naturally, we became a kind of a government in the new society. And well, maybe you can call it a leadership or something near to that, no? Because all the young boys just was waiting to hear what we think about anything, and we distribute the flesh, the meat.
So you were actually a very good team. You were holding together. But do you think also that the young generation today would, in such an extreme situation, react the same way?
I think two important points. If they are physically in good shape, like we were mainly because we are rugby players. We were rugby players. That was a quite important detail. And the other one, more important yet, is that we have a quite, in that moment, a quite high education. Mm-hmm. Because we need a lot of education and knowledge to invent everything, to melt the snow, to make our sunglasses,
So where did this knowledge come from?
Because we were studying university, and we were school, high school, and university. If instead of a rugby team would be a soccer team, that is people who play soccer in Uruguay, that people with no education, I think it wouldn't be able to do it.
Would you say that at that time, because Armin told me actually that Nando became a race driver.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. Somebody who survived is going to be a race driver. At that time, a sport that is so dangerous, and it has a lot to do with risk. So maybe this is in his genetics, that he just wanted to say, I want to be riskful, and I want to try this to say the truth.
Yes, and he always loved cars and motors, huh? But when he came back to Montevideo, his bedroom was empty, his motor was sold up, his father was with a new girl, with a girlfriend. So for him was too difficult the coming back. And he started moving and going to races and summer resorts and traveling Europe. I think that was one of the reasons. No?
I want to come, because we don't have so much time, but I would love to talk more to you.
Next time you can invite me.
Yeah.
I'm ready to come to Switzerland whenever you want.
Or I come to visit you. Yeah, would be nice.
I wait for that invitation.
It's because I want to come back again to the Generation Y. We have this modern thing of being vegan or vegetarian. At that time, I'm not a vegetarian, but at that time,
Me too.
yeah,
Me
people,
neither.
you said your colleagues were not eating the meat because of religious reasons. Today, they would probably say, I'm not eating because I'm vegan or vegetarian. I don't know, maybe we make the Generation Y a little bit too spoiled, but or the young
Poor
generation.
Generation Y now.
Yeah.
They're good,
But
good
where
guys.
would you say, when you look at the young people between 18 and 38, where would you say you can learn from them?
What I can learn from them?
Yes.
Well, all my 5 children, they're Generation Y, X, Y. They're from
Well, they are between 18
28 and 38, yes.
Perfect, yeah.
And really, I learned things from them.
Like what?
Let me think. Oh, yes. One of the things, they're much more, they live more simple lives. They change jobs, they don't make problems for anything. Well, my children especially, one of the lessons I learned in the Cordillera, not to be consumist, no? So they don't care about having the new car and the shoes and the best watches or the ultimate telephone. So maybe they're a little bit special in that generation. I think that generation is very consumist, no? They're looking for all the last.
So you mean they're not looking into luxury?
No, they're not.
Not anymore.
No, I'm very happy because I make them like that.
Yeah.
They like and they enjoy what they have to.
Well, it was maybe the
some luxury.
generation before, but it's.
But I think that they were saying at the beginning, I think they don't. We were more complicated at that time.
So you say we are more more flexible.
Yes. Yes.
And
yes.
more we like to simplify things.
Yep. That's a virtue, yeah, really.
And I would like to have a last question regarding like spirituality, because the first few sentences you say, we are more than we believe we are. I know it's difficult, we become maybe philosophical, but what exactly happens when you look right into the death?
It was fast, but was a process. We start feeling dead. The first night, I slept or tried to sleep. I didn't sleep just a minute. Just over a poor woman. It was not a friend of ours. It was an empty seat, and she came into the plane in the last minutes. And I have no place to try to sleep, and I was overheard all night. And she was screaming and shouting, they want to kill me, they want to kill me. I was the killer. And in a moment, they stopped shouting. She died just below me. So we started having the contact with death in a brutal way, very fast. Well, my cousin Daniel was dead. Other friends died in the accident. And in those 72 days, we were just with death around us. In the avalanche, they died 8 more. And then 2 for weakness or diseases, or maybe they lose hope and they died. Many times, as I told you before, we all want to die. No? We were so tired, and it was so difficult to continue struggling.
But you never thought of dying? Or
No, just a few minutes, because we knew that it was very dangerous to
But what gave you hope again? What gave you hope again?
Love, just that. Love for our families.
Did you have a girlfriend at the time?
Yeah. No. There appeared 3 girls at home when everybody, my mother was mourning, and everybody crying for 2 months and a half, and everybody wants to be we say in Spanish, the grape of the cake, so to be important in the story. So 3 friends of mine, they say, "Oh, I was Eduardo's girlfriend." And they never imagine I will come back and say, "No, that's not true." It's really funny, no?
So the love made you also survive.
But no, we all think the ones who have the girlfriends. There were 6 of us, and they married them, and they're still married.
Oh,
yeah,
that's so nice. The Generation Y likes to be divorced.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah, that's
they like to have a light life.
Another black point in the Generation Y.
And your generation is like, once you do a commitment, you do it.
Yes, and at last, we will be with my wife 40 years marriage.
Congratulations.
Yes, of course. We have many difficult moments, as you can imagine. We're humans, and many times we were just near to divorce.
But you survive.
Yes, and the result, I'm very happy with the result. I survived that. I survived a woman.
I would like to.
But really, I recommend to be married
and to work, right? Like it's work.
Work is a daily work.
I would like to give our audience the chance to ask some questions. There is one person.
Well, first of all my respects to you, Senor. My question is, why did it take 30 years not to speak about the accident, what I read? And what made it up that you started to speak about that accident?
Well, I never have problem to talk about the accident. I like to talk with my family, my friends, my cousins. I always did. But at the beginning, we didn't like, some of us, we didn't like to talk because there were many fathers and mothers and families suffering because of the boys who died in the Cordillera. It was a mixed feelings when we arrived in Montevideo. We were so happy. I have as I told you, a kind of liquid happiness getting out of my pores for 2 or 3 weeks. But on the other hand, there were many people suffering because the children didn't come. So we don't want to make them suffer more than they were suffering, talking about in the medias and appearing in the medias. And that was my reason. And in one point, I start feeling the need to transmit my experience, not to lose it the day I will go to the Cordillera, but in ashes. So I wrote a book. You will have it in English in 2 or 3 months, because I started feeling the need of writing too, and transmit the people in that kind of events. Well, that was the reason. I enjoyed so much. I like so much this kind of lectures, and I receive a lot from the audience. I really do.
And by the way, the book is Desde el Silencio. In English, it will be called Out of the Silence.
Yes, exactly. Out of the Silence, and they add the people from Amazon, or the ones who will publish it.
Mm-hmm. It comes out this year.
Hopefully, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Out of the Silence, After the Crash is the subtitle.
What does silence to you today?
The silence is the same silence that it was there. It's something absolutely necessary to go and stay with yourself, when you're inside. We are living just surrounded of noises and of every type. Many people don't have the courage of being silent. Maybe you are the one of the things I learned, the importance of nature. No? When you are in nature, you are just in silence and you are close to silence. Here in Switzerland, you have many possibilities, of course, beautiful places to be in silence.
And in the mountains.
Yes, yeah. But for me, it's very important, for anybody, it's very important to be in silence and try to get your insight and not just be running like a crazy.
I guess you are not on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Have you heard of this?
Yes, I have.
You did?
I have an Instagram because my wife.
Really?
Yes, and I have.
Okay, so we can go hashtag Eduardo Strauch Urioste.
Yep.
Okay.
And I have an art website with my paintings, Eduardo Strauch Art. I was just telling something that I forgot now. Well, what we were talking before?
About social media.
No, before that.
About silence.
Silence, yes. Oh, I forgot. Next time.
It's okay. Thank you so much. Nog jemand ander? Een vraag? Good. I really appreciate your time that you were here.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, and I hope you stay a little bit with us.
Yeah, of course.
That would be nice. I would like to announce now our podium, but you're released.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. Thank you. Eduardo Strauch. Eduardo Strauch Urioste. Thank you so much.